As a solopreneur who wants to scale and grow to another level, we have to shift our mindset. And millionaires don't touch their own tech. They delegate. They learn where and who to hand things off to so that they can do what they need to do, are meant to do, supposed to do, want to do. And so you should start building your business the same way, even from day one. One of the reasons I had to close the yoga studio is because when life hit, I didn't have any systems in place. I didn't have anything written down. Even if I had someone to step in and help take over the logistics for a while, the entire business lived in my head and in my heart. And that's not something you can just hand over to somebody else.
All right, welcome back once again to the Rock Your Gift podcast, where we operate at the intersection of business, creativity, and personal growth. And today I have a really special guest, and her name is Krystal Casey. And Krystal Casey is a systems strategist, and she works with heart-led entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that really have a massive mission, and they have an incredible skill set, but they often get stuck when it comes to the systems and all the pieces to make their business automate. So welcome to the Rock Your Gift podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'd love to always start with a little bit of backstory. Like, how did you get into doing this work where you're working with systems and stuff? Because for those of us that are just not systems type of people, like, it just sounds like, wow, like that's a lot of work, or there's a lot of details there. And so, like, you know, we're like scared of all those details, but like, it just came naturally to you, or what was that?
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people who's always been analytical, and I love to do puzzles and kind of piece things together. And that's one part of it. And then another part of it, I have learned through my own personal development. I had to learn systems to protect myself growing up, like to survive. I learned the systems. And so it was something that just kind of comes naturally. I'm constantly searching and looking, figuring out how things are working. And then usually I just can see a way that, or I have ideas like, well, if you did this, or if you did this, it would work better. So there's that part that is just that natural part of me. But what happened was I have been an entrepreneur, I guess, since forever, really, if I start to think about it. But after I had my third baby, I started in the MLM world and in direct sales and learning the back end, how the systems ran, how you brought in clients, how you tracked your clients, how you could convert them with certain sales tactics, and all of these different things really fascinated me. So that's what I studied. And eventually I opened up a yoga studio, and it was the same thing. I had to figure out all of these different pieces. How am I getting clients? Where are they coming from? How am I keeping track of who's coming to what class, and what have they paid for, and who said, you know, this note or that note or whatever. And I started with Trello, actually. It was my first CRM. And I didn't even know that's what I was doing, but I just started doing it. And then all of the things you have to do to run a business, like take sales and all of the things. And then tragedy struck, and I became a widow. And I had to learn how to keep a business going while also keeping the home going and keeping the family together. And I started to share my story around this tragedy. I wrote a couple of books, and I started getting on podcasts in different stages. And on the back end, I realized the same thing was happening again, all of these different pieces. And you're kind of left to figure it all out on your own.
Yeah.
You have like no idea, you know, you're reacting is what you're doing. You're like, okay, I need this because I have to make this happen. Now I need this because I have to make this happen. And before you know it, you have all of these different moving pieces. Nothing is talking to each other. Nothing makes sense. You're completely overwhelmed. and you're not doing the thing you want to be doing, the thing you started your business to do, or, as in my case, time with your family or other places that you would rather be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then you figured out how to start putting those pieces together. And tell us about what it is you do now. Like, what does it look like in your current business and how you're helping your clients?
So, what it looks like now is I'm doing one of two things. I am helping those solopreneurs take all of those pieces and figure out how they fit together, mapping out flows that are going to work and make life easier for them while also keeping them connected with their clients and not dropping the pieces because things are slipping through the cracks. So I do that through a group coaching program where I'm actually guiding people live through their actual systems and how to set them up.
Mm.
When I created this program, I really wanted to make sure that it was something different because I've been in group coaching programs where nobody even asked about my business. And I felt kind of really left to myself and trying to like make my business fit
Mm-hmm.
this person's coaching or course or whatever. And mine is the opposite. The coaching is designed to be customized to each person who's in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually build out your tech or put together your different systems and map out your workflows. And for the solopreneur who is in that zone where there's so much flow and there's so much going on that they want to just hand it over, I become like your outsourced tech team. It's where you never even have to touch the tech. You just let me know what you need done and when, and my team handles it.
It's awesome. I know one of the things that you told me before is that there's an emotional side to your work, right? Because a lot of times the people coming in, there's a relationship to tech, there's a relationship to these systems that gets people into a certain state. So how do you help people through that? How do you help people see tech as something that isn't this problem or this enemy or whatever?
Yeah. So first I talk about your nervous system. So I'll always be a yoga instructor at heart.
Right.
And it'll come back to you are the operating system of your business. And if you're not operating from a place of calm, a place of confidence, a place of regulation, it's going to reflect in your business. And it's going to reflect in ways such as avoidance or anxiety or pushing things off, letting things slide, a whole bunch of different ways. So we start by noticing that. What is giving you anxiety? What do you find yourself avoiding or not wanting to do? Where is it that you're finding you're getting the most bottlenecked? And then let's start to clear those so that we can flow and set things up in a way that actually supports you.
Remember early in my career, I was interested in systems because I knew I needed it, but people would say, "Oh, it's not a sexy topic," right? And how do you get people to be interested in something that by its kind of name and nature is sort of like not the most exciting thing, but it's the most important thing, right? It's like it's the glue. It's like you really want to have that Ferrari, but it's actually the engine that makes the thing go. Like, it's all the pieces that actually work together. So how do you communicate that in your marketing, or how do you inspire people and pull them in around this topic?
Well, the first thing is, as a solopreneur who wants to scale and grow to another level, we have to shift our mindset. And millionaires don't touch their own tech. They delegate. They learn where and who to hand things off to so that they can do what they need to do, are meant to do, supposed to do, want to do. And so you should start building your business the same way, even from day one. One of the stories that I share is that one of the reasons I had to close the yoga studio is because when life hit, I didn't have any systems in place. I didn't have anything written down. Even if I had someone to step in and help take over the logistics for a while, the entire business lived in my head and in my heart. And that's not something you can just hand over to somebody else. So, really looking at what your overall goal is and how you plan to achieve it and how you're going to be able to achieve it. Once you start having so many clients that you can't handle, you're not going to have time to set up a new landing page or another email sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's critical. And I am fascinated by the topic because I constantly run up against systems that I need to improve. And we have a lot of good things in play, but there's a lot more. And I'd love for the people listening to get a sense of like, yeah, like what kind of systems, like what are some of the things you're talking about? I know you mentioned CRM and things like that. And like, obviously we can go in a lot of realms here, but specifically for like online business owners, what are some of the systems that they generally don't have or need to have or that you can help them with?
Yeah, and that's the thing also is the wording, is that we don't necessarily call them systems. We don't even necessarily say the word tech, but we might be familiar with landing pages, funnels, lead magnets, this sort of thing. That is what is needed. That is the foundation of how you're going to keep the business running. I talk about prospects or leads, setting up a system to attract people. So there would be a marketing system. There would be a way to track who's coming in, who's interested, lead nurturing system, a way to convert them from leads into clients. So you're actually the payment, how you're taking payment, what happens after that when you're onboarding your client, what does that have to look like, and what is the tech, the steps that have to happen on the back end, invoices that have to go out, contracts that need to be signed, forms that need to be filled out, documents that need to be collected, all of those sorts of things. And then your admin. So all of the stuff that like you would hire a receptionist for.
Right.
But you are the receptionist because you're a solopreneur. And then the last system is where you should be spending most of your time, and that is the CEO space. Building out your vision and working with your clients and, chasing your passion.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's some really important stuff. I imagine, because you were talking about the customization, that you find out where the constraint is with that individual, right? And then you kind of help them figure out the system needed. So is it possible or fair to say that like it could be a myriad of different systems that you could help your clients with?
Correct.
And it kind of depends on where they stuck. So when you work with somebody, what's like the first step? I mean, I know you work in a group setting, but imagine that it's, personal one-on-one, and this person's coming to you and they're like, my hair's on fire. I literally can't even explain what I need, but all I know is like my days are filled up with too much doing. I have no idea like how to get this done. I'm overwhelmed by these tasks. Like, how do you take that and like siphon out, okay, here's the first thing that we need to do?
We do an assessment. That is the very first step. And we look at everything across the board, all of the systems that I just mentioned, because those are crucial no matter what your business is. And so we'll look at what are you currently doing, what's working, what's not working, what's causing the most anxiety, all of those sorts of things. And that's where we'll start.
Got it. That's great. And then what happens at that point? Do you end up like teaching them how to build that, or you end up like doing it for them, or how do they, how does that work?
So no matter how I work with you, we'll always start with an assessment. We'll always figure out where you are and where you need to go. And then we'll determine what the best road to get you there is. And in the group, I will teach you how to do it. Or if you prefer, you just hand it over to me. And then anytime you had another request, you say you have an email campaign, like we said, or another funnel that needs to be built, you just fill out a form, hand it over to my team, and we would turn it into tech and hand it back.
Nice. That's awesome. So where is it that you find that you get into flow state the most and then kind of in your genius zone with your business at the moment?
I really love making tech simple. for people because it really can be.
Mm-hmm.
It can be super complicated and overwhelming as well. But when, as an entrepreneur, you're feeling this weight of, I have to get this thing done. I know I have a launch coming up, or I have an event coming up, or whatever. And you can start to get so wrapped up in the making it happen part. And that's where I come in, and I kind of take that off of your plate so that you can just focus on the event or whatever's coming up.
That's cool. That's fun. So, was it something that you always, like you mentioned yoga before, but like at what point did you realize like, I like making tech simple? Like, was that something that were you working on something random and be like, this is fun for me?
So it was probably a slow realization, and it came about because I kept helping people with all of the things, and then starting to realize how valuable that was. After I closed the studio, I knew I needed to do something, and I needed to do something where I was my own boss. I have 5 kids. I don't think we've mentioned that yet, but I have 5 kids. So there was no way I was doing a 9 to 5. I needed something where I could be my own boss, make my own schedule, work in my own pockets of time, and in time that works for me. And in realizing that and developing, and then being in circles where I'm connecting with other entrepreneurs and business owners and talking to them, and just seeing where the struggles are, where people are needing support, and then just offering that support. And it all just kind of organically came together. And now that we're talking about it in my classes, in the group, when I was teaching, when I'm seeing people receive that transformation, whatever it is, if it's an aha moment, if it's relieving the stress, if it's feeling just a little bit lighter, like that is what absolutely lights me up.
Now, one of the things that I'm aware of with systems and business is that, when you think about it from the standpoint of like SOPs, there's a lot. And, I wonder, when you look at taking on a business, like, are you trying to help them solve like as many systems as possible? Or are you trying to kind of take a couple core systems and help them? Like, what does it look like if somebody really wants to I was looking at a business recently, and they had like 18 employees and a variety of SOPs and all kinds of systems in order to get their events launched. And I was like, wow, I had never thought that there would be that much behind the scenes going on. What's your take on like being able to help somebody at that level? Like, it's one thing to work with a solopreneur, but like, what happens when that solopreneur starts to evolve into somebody that now they have to hire people and the systems start to get even more in depth? Like, is that something that you feel like you could help them with, or what comes up around that?
It is not anything that I have experienced yet.
Okay, got it.
But what comes up for me would be essentially the same thing. Is you're going to want to assess everything that's going on. You're going to want to leverage what's working, and then you're going to want to start implementing,
Yeah, exactly. So talk to me about your practices. Like, how do you keep yourself into a positive state? Like, as a business owner, we always want to look at like, what are you doing in order to keep yourself, able to keep this business going? You got a lot going on. You have the full 5 kids, you've got a business you're running. Like, what do you do to keep yourself in the right state of mind for all that?
I take care of myself first.
Yeah. What does that look like?
And that took a lot of, especially as a mom, we tend to kind of put ourselves last. And it wasn't until after I lost my husband that I realized I had to do it the other way. I had it backwards, and I had to do it the other way. Because if I'm not taking care of myself, which looks differently any given day, and that's something else that I had to learn. But if I'm not taking care of myself, then I'm like physically not able to do all of the other things, and everything else will fall apart. So I check in with myself regularly. Um, it started as like a self-regulation thing, like to like check where I'm at and then regulate in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. But it's just kind of become a natural practice whenever I start to feel myself becoming dysregulated. I'm like, okay, stop. What's going on? What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Why am I feeling it? What do I need? And then allowing myself to answer that, even if it's rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you say take care of yourself first, like, can you give us any other examples of like how that shows
physically,
up?
like I feed my children.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that they bathe. I make sure that they do all of the things that they're supposed to do, but I would not do it for myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So like literally the most basic, did I eat breakfast?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Am I tired? Do I need a nap?
Mm-hmm.
Like
treating yourself
just like I
almost
would
like
with
you're
my
one of the
kids.
kids. Uh-huh.
Yes. And not neglecting myself because I'm the mom.
What are you most excited about with your business and where it's going right now? What's something that like you look forward to that's going to light you up and hasn't maybe happened yet?
I'm just most excited for the potential and the growth because there's so much there. And connecting with and meeting new people. As an introvert, I've never really been one to say that I like doing that. But the more that I do it, the more that I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you see like this? Give us a picture of what you see this impact that you're really here for. Like, what is it that you would like to, the impact you'd like to leave behind or that you'd like to make in your time that you're really helping people?
The impact is to help break generational cycles. Now, you might be like, what the heck does that have to do with tech or systems?
That's great.
But some of the cycles that I've had to break are just like what we just talked about, learning to take care of myself and teaching my children that it's okay as a woman, as a mom, to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
To be able to speak up and use my voice and empower other people to do the same. It's all of they're small, subtle, but mighty ripple effect type things that we all need in order to create that change.
Yeah. You said generational trauma, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's something that came up. Viewers weren't there, but Krystal was a speaker at one of my recent events, and you got up and you shared, and you were sharing a powerful story of resilience coming out of what happened with your husband. And it seems like that's a big part of what you're here for, is to inspire people to break through on those challenges, whether there's their traumas or generational traumas or things they've gone through, and come through on the other side. Can you tell us a little bit more about like that? What you're passionate about with that?
Yeah. So when I was a child, I learned very, very early on, kids are to be seen and not heard. And I silenced myself a lot. I would find it really hard to speak up and talk about anything. So I carried childhood trauma and abuse with me into adulthood. And then the cycle repeated itself. And one of the things that came up was that I hadn't ever shared my story. So it was shared for me and against me. It was weaponized against me. And that's when I decided that I'm not staying silent anymore.
What does that mean? It was weaponized.
So I was molested by my father as a young girl, and I never told anyone openly. Like, that's just, you don't share your trauma. But my husband knew. And when he was abusing our child, he told her that and said it was our family secret. And that helped to keep her quiet. So my silence was used against me in that way. And I think he almost banked on the fact that I would continue to be silent no matter what, even if I found out what was happening. And when I did find out, obviously I didn't stay quiet. I'm being as loud as I can be on it about it. And in sharing my story and coming forward and connecting with other people and hearing their stories, I've had so many people come up to me and say, thank you, because they had gone through the same thing and they also didn't share their story. Or, let me back up. There was one time I did try to tell somebody, and I was basically told, well, that happens. It's family. Sweep it under the rug. And that's what happens to a lot of victims. And that is the cycle right there.
Yes.
Like the keeping silent to protect.
Yes. And I love that because I get to see, you know, really where the passion is for you, what is really the thing that drives you forward and the message that you're really on this earth, or at least like in this phase of your life here to share for people and women and people that have gone through something like that. I wonder how you see that connecting to your business, right? I think there's a direct line. And you mentioned, of course, that we talked about, you know, people have, in a way, they have traumas around tech, right? But I think it's deeper than that. And I'd love for you to share, like, do you see or have you thought about the connection between that passion that you have about helping people with that trauma and the work that you're doing with these systems? Because I think that we were talking about systems isn't sexy, but the main thing is that what is sexy? What's sexy is actually being able to live the life that you're here for, be unstoppable and break through the things that have held you back and triumph over challenges, right? And so I wonder what comes up for you around, like, what's underneath this work around tech that is what is the heart of it for you? What's really the thing that drives you to make a difference in your business right now?
I think all of that wrapped together underneath all of that is really freedom. Freedom for myself, freedom for my children, for future generations. I am so passionate about moms, especially, being able to do the thing. And that is raising your kids. Like, that is the most important job on earth. And for the first 11 years of my kid's life, that was my only job. I want to be able to help as many people as I can to create the kind of life that they want, where they are free. They are free from the pain. They are free from the trauma. They are free from the time constraints. They are free from the money constraints. All of the things.
Yeah.
It comes down to freedom.
That's awesome. I think that's critical, right? I think that that's, you know, that's the sexy component, right? Because that's the thing that is really the most important thing, right? Systems are a vehicle, right? We need systems in order to get to that freedom, to get to that impact. But the real thing here is that this is a call for those people you're here to serve to stand for the freedom that's here for them. And it's a big one. I mean, when we really look at it as a solopreneur, you know, a lot of people, they feel like they're so grateful they get to run a business, but they're wearing 50 hats and it's terrorizing because there's so many things that you need to be doing. And if you add to that you have kids or you got a family to take care of, you're fractured in a million places. And meanwhile, you're just trying to do a good job by your clients and by your family and your kids. And so it's a trap, and it can be really painful. So, you know, I'm wondering for you, like, what is it that what's coming up for you around this? And what is it that might be some steps that you're going to take with what we're talking about? Like what's emerging?
A lot of the business coaching advice, what have you, out there doesn't necessarily work for moms because we are on a different planet, it feels like, in how we are able to manage things and the things that we are responsible for. So what's coming up for me is that I have discovered that the way I do things, it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation, is really checking in. Like, what needs me today? Is it me? Is it my kids? Is it the business? Like, where do I need to be? And understanding there is no balance. You cannot juggle all things at all times. But there's a rhythm, and there are cycles, and there are flows. And if we can get into these rhythms and listen to what's going on inside, it makes every day just a gift and not just something you have to get through.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. And share about like, what are a couple core systems that you think that your ideal client needs to, like, let's say you don't have a chance to do the whole assessment with them and they just want to know, okay, I'm a solopreneur and I'm an online business owner. What are the first couple systems that I should be thinking about putting in place? And what's the cost if I don't? Like maybe I don't want to do it.
I think the biggest one for me was a lead tracking system. So when we go back to CRM, customer relationship manager, something, it can be a spreadsheet, but something to keep track of all of your people, how you're connecting with them, when you're connecting with them, what they need, how you can help them, all of those things. I think that would be the first one. And the other thing that I use all the time is a planner, tracker kind of thing. So I'm a techie girl. Mine is digital. People, have like calendars and written planners and stuff. I do all of mine digitally so that I can brain dump, I can delegate. And when life hits, whether it's school, whether it's my feelings, whether it's illness, everything can just sit there and I can always come back to it and pick it back up. And I think having a command center, a central hub like that, that kind of like holds all of the things that your brain is holding, but like shouldn't be all the time. I think that's so important.
You're saying that a calendar can be that?
Yeah.
So I think most people just think of a calendar as like, okay, this is what I'm doing next week at this time. So it sounds like you have a little bit of a different perspective on how you can do that. What does that mean that it can hold your stuff in your brain? In what way?
Yeah. So I actually use, Notion. So it's like a spreadsheet software. But I set it up in a way to where I can dump literally everything out. I wake up in the morning and learn this practice from you. Write down all of the things that are on my brain so I can see everything. Then I plan what's going to happen when and where. If there's something like pressing that has to happen, that happens this week, is there something that...
So you're ahead of the game,
right?
And you're able to pull out all the RAM and pick the right things.
And you can't always be on top of we're not machines, we're humans.
Yeah.
So things happen to where sometimes the thing doesn't get done or it slips to the bottom or whatever. But knowing that it's there and that you can see it and come back to it at any time has been a game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge piece of it. I think nowadays, most people that I talk to are really disorganized, and there is just way too much going on in their brain and way too little clarity that's on paper or some type of system that allows them to sort of say, okay, what's the right thing for me to focus on right now? And how do I accomplish this objective in this time frame without it taking way longer, right? Like how do I like chunk down and really get things done? I've seen you at work in terms of like, you helped me on a project for my event, and I've seen you kind of tackle things. I was really surprised when you tackled this cold lead list, and you literally, the first thing you did was reach out to people that there was no relationship to the business. We just had their contacts, and you just called them and you automatically started creating some opportunities. What is that? What's that quality of yours? What's that part? How did that come to be that you're willing? Because that's not normal. Most people avoid that stuff like the plague, especially cold. It's like cold calling.
I don't know, because honestly, to me, it seemed like the easier way out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a team of us,
Yeah.
and there were already people that had relationships.
Right.
And for me, it was easier to just
go,
start building new ones.
Yeah. What comes up for you when you call somebody out of the blue? Like, do you feel any nerves or anything like that?
If you had asked me like years and years ago, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, not really.
Because you've done it so much?
Yes. And one of the things I learned early on in my direct sales is that you're offering a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get offended if they say no, they don't want pie. You just
Right.
move on to the next person and ask them if they want a piece of pie.
It's great. And it also showed me that, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. I saw you, kind of make a commitment and follow through on it. How did you build that habit? Because again, that's uncommon. Most people they're just not that together.
This is literally how I have been my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It has been, I think, truly a survival tactic for me to see something that I want. And knowing that the only way I'm going to get it is if I go out and I do the work and I get it. And yeah, I've just kind of always been that way.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's a really good quality.
I know I know things aren't handed to you, and that if you want something, you're going to go out and make it happen. And if you're just sitting there complaining that things aren't happening, but you're not actually doing anything, joke's on you. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of how I was raised.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's these types of things that make you successful in business. These are the things that, it's not comfortable, but it's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, you're going to feel proud of the fact that you got it done. And that is the most important thing. In my opinion, when it comes to business, is not the result. We always want to get the result, but the question is, are you willing to do the things that make you proud to say, I did what I was needed to do today? And if you do that over time, it compounds and results become automatic. So
exactly.
I see you have that kind of built in. So we just have a few more minutes. And if you're enjoying this, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like, make sure that you comment, share this with your friends, and check it out on all the major platforms. But I want to pass it back to you and just say, what's one final word that you want to share with people, or thoughts that you'd like to share for anybody watching who's, maybe thinking about, okay, I want to grow my business, or I want to take it to the next level, or I know I need systems, or I'm like really burnt out, or whatever you think that could really help them. And then tell us also where we can find you for people who would like to follow up with you.
It's never too soon to start. So a lot of times we think, oh, I'll do that when I reach this level or when I get to this point. But start building now the foundation for when you're huge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help and then filter it through your own self. Mm-hmm. And take what resonates and leave the rest, because not everything is for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. I love it. So how can we find you? Oh, yeah. So you can find me on all of the social media platforms. You can go to krystalcasey.com/links, and you will always find my upcoming events, my latest offers, my upcoming masterclass, and my social links. Yeah. And you do a masterclass on this topic of systems like pretty regularly, right? Yes, I do. And so just give the link one more time for those of you that want to put systems in play. And yeah, go to krystalcasey.com. That's Krystal with a K, yes. Casey with a C, /links. Love it. Love it. Well, you heard it here on the Rock Your Gift podcast. And if you enjoyed this, then once again, make sure you subscribe and tell your friends about it. And we look forward to seeing you on the very next one. Until then, remember to go out there and rock your gift. Peace.